Hey, I'm Scotty T from Your Comedy Minute. I have a very funny young man named Mark Dysinger with me. Mark, how are you?
I'm great, and thank you for calling me a young man.
Well, compared to me, buddy, you're young. I got one foot in the grave and the other in the banana peel. So, Mark, you're in Connecticut, is that correct?
That's correct. I live central coastal Connecticut. That's right.
Okay. And were you born and raised in Connecticut?
I was born and raised in Maine, actually. I spent most of the first 30 years of my life up in Maine, but most of my life has been in New England. Yes.
A very good friend of mine, Chris Young, lives in Maine.
Hmm.
And I keep telling him I want to come up and get some lobsters.
Yeah, that's the place to do it. Everything's better in Maine with regards to seafood.
Oh, yeah.
I've been in Connecticut now since 2000, so coming up on 25 years now in Connecticut.
Are you a big fan of seafood?
I am, and I am a self-professed seafood snob. I have stuff from Long Island Sound, and it's just I'm sorry, it's just not the same as the cold, deep water of Maine. There is
Yeah.
a difference. There
Well, I
is.
know here, I'm in York, Pennsylvania, which is, the closest thing that I know is that we used to go down to, my parents had a beach house. And we dropped the crab pots in and get blue crabs and fresh crabs, which was phenomenal. But I know here, they have cold water lobster, and you pay more for cold water lobster.
Yes, absolutely. There's a
Well, I don't
difference
know
in the
what the hell
quality.
any of this has to do with comedy, so we better steer it to comedy. Enough talking
Yeah,
about me and the food. I love
I want to
food.
stop talking about you and your crabs. Let's change the subject.
Yeah, I don't mind the itching, but I hate the swelling. So, Mark, when did you start doing comedy? Tell me that.
Well, that's a good question, and you may hear people say this a lot, but a lot of people tell me I've been doing comedy my whole life. I just haven't been on a stage.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
middle child. I'm a middle child. I have the typical middle child syndrome where,
All right.
I need attention because I'm not getting it,
Is
and
that it?
I've always used humor as a coping mechanism, through good times
Yeah.
and bad. I dabbled in it when I was in college years ago.
All right.
And then I had a milestone birthday that was approaching some years ago, and I thought, if I keep waiting for the right time to get back into it, it's never going to be the right time. I just have to do
Okay.
it. And my wife was very supportive of it. And, I was getting back into it right before COVID hit. And then, as you know, COVID
Yeah,
killed
yeah.
all live entertainment.
It's a
It
break
was a
forever.
horrible thing. I was getting some traction, and people tried to get me to do Zoom comedy, where you
Yeah.
have, and I did it. I did it, Scott, so I could say that I did it and laugh about the fact that I did it, because it's not like being in a room and you can't play off of people, and a lot of people don't have their video on, so you don't know how they're reacting. But it was about as exciting as a gluten-free cracker. It was really
Yeah.
but I had a purpose for doing it. I wanted to do it so I could say I did it.
Well, I've seen some of those where they're 7, 8 people, and I just don't. Now, to me, this one-on-one, interaction with you, and just so people know, almost every one of these I've done, I've never met the person,
Hmm.
which leads to spontaneity, which leads to, it being interesting for people to watch because, I don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say. And, I just find them, for me personally, I like doing these this
Yes.
way.
Yes.
But
I
no,
get
I couldn't do one with 6, 7 people, and that would just be,
no.
I'd fall asleep. I'd be drinking. Well, okay, so the next question I had was there a catalyst? And you said there was a monumental birthday, and that's kind of what got you back into it.
Yeah, I mean, you just get to a point in life where you know what you like to do and what you don't like to do. You know what you do well, you know
Sure.
what you don't do well. And I was tired of giving myself, my daughter was of the age, she's 14 now. Back then,
Right.
she was getting to be the age of she's much more independent, so
Right.
and she actually has inspired me with a lot of my comedy. She's a very smart, witty kid for her age.
Right.
Um, and I just noticed throughout life, like, people ask me, I don't want to get too far ahead, but people ask me where to get my material. And I say, I just pay attention to the world around me. I
Yeah.
think there's just lots of funny things that are going on in our world. and I would be at work, or I'd be driving, or I'd be out running errands or something. I'd see some funny stuff. I just thought, man, I got to get this into a set. I've got to get back into this. And it just started accumulating, and I said, I got to start writing things down so I don't forget them. And that was kind of the impetus. I've never been shy about speaking in front of groups. I've been a teacher or a mentor most of my life from teenage years onwards. So being in front of people doesn't bother me.
All right.
And I'm not really a joke writer. Some people sit down and they write jokes. I'm more of a storyteller, and my set lists are bullet points, and I probably never told the same joke exactly the same way twice, because I'm recounting an experience and I may use different words every time. But the impetus was just like, there's so much weird stuff happening. I have to have a medium to share this. I don't sing well at all. I don't play a musical instrument.
Right.
So this is a way to be creative.
Well, when you say that, I did 105 YouTube live shows. And it was early on that I realized exactly what you said. All I had to do was go to the New York Post and look and see,
Yeah.
somebody shot somebody at a Taco Bell because they didn't get their, chalupa properly or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
or to get really nasty, a woman was making love to a dog in front of the church, and on the YouTube live, I remember somebody said it was the pastor's dog, you know what I mean? Or it just, the comedy writes itself.
It does.
I mean, all you got to do is, like you say, turn on the news, and it just, the other week here there was a 74-year-old man that tried to get to have a three-way with two young girls, and for me, I laugh at the wrong stuff, but to me that's comedy gold.
That is. One of them must have been like doing CPR while the other one was active or something.
I
That's
I just
hilarious.
couldn't. But yeah, I think you're right, and I like that approach. I'm more of a, like, I have one coming up with Carmen, and I'm more of a one-liner because I grew up on, Rodney Dangerfield and Henny Youngman,
Mm,
one-liner
mm-hmm.
kind of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one coming up with Carmen, and I can't wait to ask her if she knows the Carmen joke. Do you know the Carmen joke?
I know a few, but which one? Go ahead and tell me.
No, 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 no. Tell me, if the woman who changed her name to Carmen. You don't know that? Do you know that one?
No, I don't know that one.
She says, a guy comes up and says to her something about, Carmen, what a beautiful name. She goes, yeah, I changed it because, I love cars and I love men, so I changed my name to Carmen. She said, what's your name? My name's BJ Titzenbeer.
I thought I kind of saw that coming. I just
Yeah,
wondered what the
yeah,
punchline
yeah. I
was.
love that joke. I just,
Oh,
and I hope she hasn't heard it, or it may be one of those things that the recording's going to end pretty quick right after I tell it to her.
no, I think someone who's reaching out to you is probably pretty open-minded. So
We hope
that
so.
that that's pretty good.
But yeah, and that's what happens with me. And you brought up a point there where I get up and I write stuff down because God knows at my age, and the amount of weed I smoke and the alcohol and everything, I'll forget it, or I have stuff and then it bothers me. Damn it, what was that I was thinking about?
Yes, yes.
Does that happen to you?
It does happen to me, and I'm really good. Like, I use my iPhone. I just take up my
Okay.
iPhone, I go in the notes section, I write down bullet points. But I have to be more specific, because sometimes I'll
Yeah.
even look at a bullet point and I'll say, what
What
was
was I
funny
thinking?
about that? And I don't have
I
the,
see
I
that.
have to provide more context.
Well,
So
what happens to,
I probably have a treasure trove of stuff that never got into a set because I wasn't specific enough with the notes that I took.
what happens to me, Mark? I'm sitting in the living room and I'll see something on TV or something, I'll scribble it down, and in the morning I look at it, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
If I can even read it, and then I'm like, well, what was I trying to, what was I going for there?
Yeah, that there is an early Seinfeld episode about that where he woke up from a dream and thought something was funny. He scribbled something down. The rest of the episode, he's trying to have people figure out what the word was that he wrote down and why it was funny. There's a whole
Oh,
episode about
oh,
that.
really? Really?
Yeah, the struggle is real, Scott.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was especially, and I'll tell you, since I started doing these, I don't have the pressure I did. But when I was doing 2 lives a week and still running the quickies and doing it, I mean, I was coming undone. It was like the little bit of sleep I was getting, I'd wake up at 3, 4 in the morning, and want to do a bit, or want to turn on the camera and record something. And, it's like, thank God it's only taken 4.5 years, but I'm finally starting to get a little bit of a grip on what I'm doing here.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Uh-huh.
let's move on, because I know, and we'll get back to the comedy in a second, but I know you're a big fisherman. You love to fish and you do a lot of
I
stuff
do.
with,
I
yeah.
do. Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually licensed by the Coast Guard to run fishing charters on Long Island Sound. I actually went through that process quite a while
Right.
ago. I've spent most of my life on boats. I don't get seasick. And not to sound too corny, Scott, but when I'm on the water, that's where I feel like I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I just get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I have some people who I've been fishing with for decades who are friends, not just clients. So I have a lot of buddies. And at that point, the fishing is secondary. We're just catching up, and
Yeah.
but also I spend a lot of time. My work has been in a number of books and online publications and stuff. So I am considered to be a bit of a subject matter expert in some aspects of
Well,
it.
I
So
saw you have a YouTube channel that is all about, the fishing and stuff, which is
yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
fly tying and stuff. Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yep,
My father used to love doing that, tying, fly
yep,
tying.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
And I
dad is
think
the one
you're
who got
right.
me. He's the one who got me involved in fishing, and he never fly fished, but when I showed interest in it, he fully supported it. So it's all my dad's fault.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me ask you about, and you did touch on it. Your first gig was not, I don't want to say it wasn't hard for you, but you said you're comfortable speaking in front of people. So,
Right.
excuse me, was it still, because you were doing comedy for the first time, was it a little nerve-wracking?
So that's a great question, and it's a common question. To be fully transparent, my nerves were not in the area of being in front of people. My nerves, as they were, had to do with how does this process work? How am I supposed to know when my time on stage is up? I wasn't
Yeah,
familiar with him flashing the light at me or anything.
right.
And I know I have to work on timing. I don't want to step on the laughter, but at the same time, I don't want to lull so much that I lose people's attention.
Right.
So my anxiety was more with the process, which I guess is its own thing. And yeah, I did well. I was confident with the material, but I was not confident with how things roll out. But like anything, once you've done it a couple of times, you become more familiar with the expectation and the way things go from beginning to end. And every club and every
Yeah.
function is unique, has their own way. But as long as you get that information up front, it's pretty straightforward. I think half of my first set was just about living life as a tall person. Obviously, you can't tell because I'm sitting down, but I'm 6'7". I'm a very tall person.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have a lot of humor about that, a lot of self-deprecating stuff, and it's relatable because when I'm standing there,
Yeah.
I ask people not to chase me with torches and pitchforks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's great to do crowd work with people when you're self-deprecating because it's relatable because everyone has something about themselves that's unique that you can own and acknowledge, and it's very humanizing. You know what I mean?
I do,
It's
I
great.
do, I do some self-deprecating stuff, but I'm not very
Yeah.
good at. But I'm not very good at it.
Oh, there you go again.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You just set me up.
Yeah, it kind of did. That's a big beach ball for you to hit.
Yeah. Um, but I'm sorry. I really am. The minute you said that, I said, "Oh, I gotta go. I gotta
Yeah, it
go
was
for
good.
it." No, I think it's funny because as I'm doing these, someone like you that has experience and stuff, with public speaking, that you still had the anxiety as far as, and I know we talked a little about Corey Albert, and we'll get to Corey in a little bit, but he talked about, notes and stuff going up on stage and the timing. And I think that's something that, and if you said you change things, that timing is something I'll probably work on to the day I die,
Yeah, right on. Yep.
because and I think it also varies from, like you said, from room to room. If the audience is really responding and they're laughing really hard, you almost have to hold off for a second.
You do.
till you get to the, so that you don't trample over that, you don't want to stop it, but you don't want to lose momentum either. It's a slippery slope.
I agree. You have to be quick on your feet, and there are people. I mean, I don't do a lot of open mics anymore because my schedule, if I'm going to
Right.
dedicate time to comedy, it's going to be at a show or a fundraiser or something like
Okay.
that. But when I do go to open mics, a couple observations I have. Number one, when I do it, I don't go up there with the set list. I don't go up with notes because I want that to be a dry run of me working without the notes.
Okay.
That's just something I impose upon myself.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a dress rehearsal. And I am not saying that if guys go up with their phones or notes and run through, there's nothing wrong with that at an open mic. I got no problem with that.
Right.
The other thing I notice about open mics is if something doesn't work in an open mic, that does not translate to it not working in front of the general public.
Yeah.
Because an open mic, you are mostly talking to other comedians, and other comedians often see the setup and the joke coming.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't work there, some of my best material, Scott, has been stuff that hasn't worked at open mics. So
Yeah.
there is, for me personally, there is no correlation between success at an open mic and success at a venue. There isn't. For me, an open mic is a great place to do a dry run,
Well,
basically.
if you don't mind, do one of your favorite bits. I would love to hear, I don't care how long it is. Go ahead and do one of your favorite
Oh,
bits.
sure. Yeah. Okay. So just to get this out of the way, I'm 6'7", I'm 6'10" in heels, and my drag name is Sticky Giraffe. Some of you are looking at me like you've never seen a tall person before. It's not easy going through life like this. There's some cars that I can't drive. There's some beds, my feet are too long. I have to get down on one knee so I can look hookers in the eye while I negotiate with them. It's a very personal transaction, Scott. You know what I mean. You look like someone who's had a woman knock her junk around. You knock your junk around for a few bucks. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. People, do you play basketball? Do you play basketball? Yes, I did. How about you? You're short. Have you ever played miniature golf? Are you a jockey? Do you live in a tree and make do you live in a tree and make cookies with other elves? But the one that really gets me is I have found out that height is a body type that
Right.
is one of the few body types that we can openly gawk at. You don't say right to someone, wow, you are really fat.
Yeah,
But
right.
people say to me all the time without any
Yeah,
filter,
right.
wow, you are really tall. You must have trouble finding clothes that fit. Did you play basketball? Does height
Yeah.
run in your family? I don't go to fat people and say you're huge. You must have trouble finding clothes that fit. Does obesity run in your family? Do you sumo wrestle? That kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is what I mean about talking about life as a tall person,
Right.
because it's not all it's cracked up to be, but
My buddy said, "Stop making fun of my height." I said, "I didn't know he had a short temper." I'm sorry.
so I went through that bit one time about, people openly gawking about being tall. And this like 4'10" woman comes up. She goes, people do that to short people as well. I said, I know. I mean, just height in general,
Yeah,
whether you're
yeah,
really tall or
yeah.
really short. And you have to admit, Scott, it's socially acceptable for people to gawk at height, where there are other body types and
Oh yeah.
morphisms that it's taboo to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just did one the other day where he was talking about, and I loved his analogy because he's very big. And he said, "Look, I'm 50 years old. This ain't going anywhere. This is good." And the way he talked about it,
It
and
is what it
weight, and
is.
this ain't going anywhere. This is staying. I just had to
Oh.
laugh. But you're right, and it's almost like taboo. Like I have a ton of fat jokes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like
Mm-hmm.
and oh, I know. I kind of lost my because he was talking about that some doctor somewhere said that being overweight is a disease. Obesity is a disease. And then he said it's like alcohol is a disease. And my liver twitched a little bit, you know. But it's funny. And speaking of which, I have the elixir of comedy, according to you, Jack Daniels and Mountain Dew.
That's correct. That's right off of an Instagram post. That's
Right
right.
off of Facebook. I just saw it
And
this
and,
morning.
and the reason I had that, I kind of did it as just as a
Yeah,
throwaway
I know.
joke between me and a couple people, but it can be a little dangerous. I was That was a night I was down in Hanover, Pennsylvania. And
Oh my God.
yeah, yeah, the old rail
Hey,
town there, practically into Maryland. That was the Good Karma Comedy Fest that Frank Vignola was running. And it was at the Church of Satire, which is a
yeah,
fantastic club.
right.
It's a church that they converted to a comedy club. And the stage is where the altar was, and the audience still sits in pews. They still have pews there. It's fantastic. Anyway,
Let me interrupt you for a second.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I'm in York, Pennsylvania.
Yes, you're right there.
Yeah, Hanover's
Yeah,
right. I've been to Hanover. We call it
yeah.
Hangover, Pennsylvania. We've been up
Hangover,
so many times.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Yeah. No,
interrupt.
no, no, it's okay. And they were like, well, BYOB,
Right.
that kind of thing. So I was like, just kind of like an out of towner, and I just went to the local liquor store. And I remember back in the day, some of my friends and I would have Jack Daniels with Mountain Dew. Not a Jack and Coke, but Jack and Mountain Dew, because
Right.
Mountain Dew is so sweet, it makes the whiskey go down easier. Now, of course, I didn't have that whole little container of whiskey that night, but I had a couple of those, just because
Yeah.
what I like about the comedy festival, Scott, is getting to perform in new spaces, but also meeting other comedians and seeing
Right.
their styles, and
Right.
just getting different perspectives for people. And these are people from throughout the Northeast corridor, from Maryland north to Vermont. There were like
Yeah.
6 or 7 of us that night. It was just fantastic. It really was.
Well, my comment, or when I saw it, I've never had Mountain Dew.
Well, I highly recommend you have it with Jack Daniels
No,
if you try.
I'll skip on the Mountain Dew. No, and I'm not shitting you. I know a guy at work I used to work with that he had Mountain Dew, and his kids love Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew. I've never had a Mountain Dew in my life.
Oh, that stuff will rot
It's
your teeth out.
well, it's like it's like Red Bull or any of those energy drinks. I've never had any of those.
Right.
I don't know
I've,
why. I mean, I guess I just
I haven't had Red Bull or any of those either. Any of those Monster Energy drinks, I haven't had them.
I
And
just
it's not that I think they're dangerous. It's just I've never had the incentive.
well, for me, and I was just thinking about as I was going to say it, I was always worried about like cancer, or there'd be a study. If you've been drinking Red Bull all these years, you're going to grow shit out of your arms or something.
Yeah,
Then I
exactly.
started thinking, Christ, the amount I drink and the amount I smoke, that's the least of my worries. Well, do another one if you got another little bit. I'd love to hear you do another bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so we were talking before about, body types,
Right.
right? So there is there's a body positivity movement where people are not fat, they're just healthy the way they are, which is a bit of a misnomer. But it was in the news earlier this year that there is a fat body positivity movement that has actually made official requests for hotels to widen their hallways. They're asking for the hallways in hotels to be widened.
Uh,
How fat are you that you need a hallway to be widened? If you're asking for a hallway to be widened, maybe a hotel is not your first issue you need to be dealing with. There's I should exercise more fat. There's I should eat better fat. Then there's you need to reconsider your architectural strategy fat. It's unbelievable. And Scott, this is real stuff. This is what I mean about paying attention to the news around you. This
yeah.
is a real thing, and it writes itself,
Well,
right?
I got to tell you, Mark, and I have no believe me, I'm a big boy. I got no reason. I was thinner before I started doing this, but when I see Lizzo, I,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to piss off every Lizzo fan, but a little bit of vomit into my, comes in, and sometimes I actually do vomit. I, I think what bothers me about Lizzo, it, Mark, as you saw the other night with Corey, I really don't have an off filter, but why does she wear that shit?
Oh, I don't
Why
know.
does she wear? She looks like a damn. Oh Jesus! Oh
I
my
know.
God!
It's like
I said to
it,
Corey in that interview, "Don't poke the bear." Boy, when you started that, boy, first one that comes to mind is Lizzo,
yeah, it's
and the airplane. When you started saying about wider hallways, in an airplane, Look, if you got to buy 2 seats, you got to buy 2 seats, you fat bitch.
I agree. And Lizzo is like 10 pounds in a 5 pound bag. I don't, does
Oh,
she, it's not good. I think
no,
Drew Carey 30 years ago had a bit. Drew Carey.
I would love
He
to.
said, he said, if you don't have a nice body, cover it the fuck up.
Yeah, yeah, no,
It's a Drew
exactly.
Carey. The current host of Price is Right.
Yeah, no, I was at Cleveland when he ran out onto the field when the Browns opened their stadium.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love. I
Wow.
remember the old Drew Carey show. I used to love it.
Yeah.
Well, we touched on, and I got it now since you mentioned it. We don't have a lot of time yet, but Corey Albert, who was on the other night, he did a story, and before we started the recording, you said that you actually were the host of that show.
I was.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you the line beyond, it was a fundraiser for an EMT who lost her eye, and I lost it a little bit. But when he said he thought he was, like a life alert salesman, that was the line that really got me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the fact that Corey, for the people, if you go back and watch it, Corey does Holocaust, abortion, nine
Yes.
11, and I just pictured that crowd.
Corey is the Sith Lord of dark humor. He is. He's like, come to the dark side, we have cookies. He is the Sith Lord. And just to give you background about that, that was last October.
Mhm.
And when I walked in, this was a last minute thing. They're like, Mark, we need someone to host this fundraiser. Sure, no problem. I
Right.
showed up. It was at a VFW hall. And yes, the average age of the crowd was much older than what I've been done before. But for me, and Corey and me and the other comedians were eating at the performers table in the back. And
Yeah.
Corey was a little bit nervous. He says, I don't know if my stuff is going to go over well. Corey, I said, not to be like too much of a father figure, but use it. Use it.
Yeah.
So, I always try to find something relevant to the cause of the crowd. When I got up to the host, I said, okay, it's 7:15. We have to get going because I know for most of you, it's already past your bedtime.
Right.
That kind of thing, and they responded, they laughed their heads, and I'm like, okay, we're good. I knew we were good. These people would take almost anything. And when they started falling asleep, not falling asleep, when they're between acts, said, come on, you got to show me you're more than fentanyl and illiteracy here. We got to keep the show going, and they respond to that. You poke them and they
Yeah.
respond to it. But I thought Corey did great. He stuck to his guns. But
Yeah.
my advice has always been, if you see something unique or something that makes that crowd different than what you're used to, use that.
Right.
Use it.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, and I think what I'm finding, or in talking to you, you're a veteran. You hosted a lot of stuff, but it would be terrible if I didn't mention you have a big show in Bridgeport tomorrow.
I do.
Keenan Thompson, from
Yes.
Saturday Night Live, he produces it or whatever. Is that
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
That's a big deal, huh?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I don't presume to assume he's going to be there or anything, but it's
No,
at the
no, no.
Stress
I
Fact.
didn't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so, but
It's at the Stress Factory in Bridgeport. That's a great comedy club. There's a show
yeah.
at 7:30 and one at 9:30. I'm on the 9:30 show, but I will be there for the early show to support some of my friends who are on that one.
Cool.
I have a 5-minute set. It's going to be pretty quick, but
Yeah.
it really is a great venue. I love that place. It's a great room.
What's would you do you have a favorite or you know what? Let's just we'll maybe do another one of these down the road.
Sure,
You have some venue, upcoming stuff you want to mention because this isn't going to air. I mentioned it that it's tomorrow, but it's probably not going
that's
to air
fine.
for about 2 weeks.
That's
You
fine.
have some stuff coming up you want to mention?
Well, there is the one tomorrow night in Bridgeport. Um, uh, there is one at Toyo Restaurant in Colchester, the Asian Fusion Bar. They have a nice show there once in a while. That's on May 31st. That's a while
Okay.
from now.
Yeah.
And sprinkled in between now and then are some submissions I've made to comedy festivals I'm waiting to hear back from, and they will
Okay.
plug in some of the gaps if I'm accepted. But there's always last minute, hey Mark, I got a spot in a show here or
Okay.
there. But
Cool.
I have gotten to the point in not just comedy, but in my life where I can kind of sit back and kind of pick what I want to do. Because as I said before, I don't frequent a lot of open mics because I'd
Right.
rather dedicate it to, and I'm at the point where I don't need to be doing this 2 and 3 times a week. I could do 2 to 3 shows a month and be perfectly happy
Right.
doing
Right.
this. And that's kind of where I am right now.
You mentioned it, and I want to touch on it real quick. You mentioned Instagram.
Yes.
I'll obviously put the link to your Facebook and Instagram. Do you do TikTok too, or just
I don't do TikTok. I've got
okay?
Facebook, I've got Instagram, and I have what is it? It's the V. It's Vimeo.
Okay, Vimeo. Okay, you do
Vimeo.
videos on
That's where I have
Vimeo.
my links to my some of my video clips
Okay,
that I use for submissions and stuff. So
I'll
yeah,
put that link in the description when we air it.
perfect. Thank
But
you.
yeah, I mean, I thank you so much. I can tell, I'm dealing with somebody that's very comfortable in doing any types of comedy, and you blew me away with your bit about being tall. That was great stuff.
Well, it's easy to talk about it when you live it.
Yeah, I think again, I want to get to the end here with your comedy minute, but I think that's true. My funniest stuff is stuff that I feel, and like I remember doing a bit one time about Comcast, or one of them that I was on the phone, and the next day I did a bit about it, and but because it was true, it was like, you stupid son of a bitch, representative, Jesus Christ, you know, and nothing beats that, you know.
I swear that is Skynet desensitizing us and breaking us down before they take
Whatever,
over.
I mean, I'll do one real quick, and this just happened. I ordered hats. I finally am going to have your comedy minute hats. So I went to order one. I ordered it, and 2 minutes after I ordered it, my phone went off. Did you order? And it was a charge that wasn't authorized. Somehow my card got hacked. They sent me a new card, but they didn't send me a PIN. And it's now about 10 days later, and I still don't have the PIN.
Oh my goodness.
You should have heard me going off
Wow.
to Ahmed. Hello, thank you for calling Santana. My name is Ahmed. Your name is Tony, right? Yes, Tony. Yes, my name is Tony. Okay, Tony Ahmed. Anyway,
Uh,
let's get to your comedy minute. Do you have something for me?
I do. I actually have I have 2 of them and they're each about 30 seconds.
Okay,
If
well,
that
whatever.
works. Yeah.
Whatever. However
So
you want to do it.
so the first one is, there's a lot of restaurants here in New Haven where my day job is, and we have some people that come from Europe. And when they come from Europe, their accents don't always translate. We go out for lunch and they don't pronounce their hard G's. Instead of ordering the Angus burger, they order the anus burger.
Oh, no.
So I'll take the anus burger, medium rare. And the wait staff looks at me, and without missing a beat, I said, I too would take the anus burger, but I'll take it bareback. And it was at that point that the wait staff knew that I was joking, but that they weren't.
Right.
My sec my,
That's
my
good.
second one, yeah, my second one also happened here in New Haven. One of my good friends invited me to work at a venue, and he said it's an urban crowd, more urban than you're probably used to, translated African American.
I
So I
got it.
showed up. I showed up there. I was the only white guy in the place, and
Yeah.
like I said before, Scott, use that, right? Use
Right.
it. So what
Right.
I did was I was the first one, and this is kind of a gamble, but I got to the microphone after I was introduced. I said, hi, I hope I'm in the right place. I'm reading for the role of Kunta Kinte in the Roots remake. And the whole place just completely embraced me with
Yeah.
their laughter, because I was kind of the white elephant in the room,
Yeah.
literally. And when you openly acknowledge like that with humor that you're the
Yeah.
only white guy in the place and you put yourself out there, they loved it. They loved it.
I've actually, yeah, I've been in that same scenario.
Yeah.
When I'd go to BET and I'd be the only white guy in the room. Or, I call it, I used to be in several times where I was in a VFW. Very few whites.
Yeah. Yeah. But those are the 2 things. Those are 2 memories
Yeah.
of mine that always make me smile when I think
Yeah.
about them.
Oh, good
Yeah.
Lord. And nowadays, I don't know. I don't know if it might. No, it probably still would work.
Oh,
Well, Mark,
yeah.
I'm gonna stop the recording here in a little bit. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank
Is
you
there
for the
anything else you want
opportunity.
to tell the people before we go?
No, just thanks. And
Yeah.
if there's something, not just comedy, but my advice is to someone, if there's something you want to do, the worst thing you can do is have regrets and think, what if
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
tried that? You know, the
yeah,
worst that can happen is you tried and it doesn't work. At least then you won't wonder what if.
yeah,
That's all I'll say.
yeah. That's great advice.
No,
Okay, hang tight for a second. I want to stop the recording because I want to talk to you a little bit off the record.
you
Thank you
bet.
again for being here. You're wonderful.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been great talking with you.
I will check in with you in a little while. We'll do this again soon.
Sounds great.